I'm going to say this up front. I want to give you what I think is the way to really stand out on YouTube. If you're interested in doing YouTube, or maybe you've started and you're just kind of like, you feel like you're flogging along, if that makes sense. But I want to talk about that, and it may go counterintuitive to what you hear, and you know what? I'm okay with that. By the way, my name is Kevin Colby. I'm so glad you're here. And it's basically the way to stand out on YouTube is stop trying to do what everybody else is doing. Now, this isn't to say you can't learn from other people. I'm a huge, huge believer in that. In fact, I don't think we ever stop learning. I see too many people teaching, gurus on YouTube, that it's like they've got the way to do it. This is the only way to do it. And it's kind of like they figured out this plan that, if you just follow that, everything's going to happen. And the reality of it is people are fickle. They're absolutely fickle. We have different tastes. We have different ways of doing things. We have, days where we're just different. I mean, I enjoy the movie Transformers, the first one, but I also like this movie called The Dig, which is really good. Completely different movies. But again, my taste may change over time. I think the number one mistake you can make when you're creating content is worrying too much about trying to fit into a mold because that's what somebody has said to do. I mean, tell me if you've heard this before. You can't do an intro in your video because, people will tune out. But yet, I watch videos where there's intros. In fact, I've noticed, tell me if you've seen this, there's kind of now a return to intros, and especially in the video podcasting world. Now, could they be too long? Yeah, maybe. Do they add anything to the show? Maybe, maybe not. But that's one. Goldfish have a short attention span, so you've got to get to it and get to it quick. Okay, first of all, who in the world woke up one day and said, I'm going to try and test goldfish to see what their attention span is? It's a goldfish. Here one day, gone the next. The other thing about, you have to edit for retention. If you don't know what this is, in your YouTube analytics, which, this is one of the things I'm going to do a little side trip here. So I talked with Nick Nimmin, had him on the channel. Loved Nick, mad respect, but I didn't necessarily agree with him on this point. Maybe I should have pushed back. Maybe we could have gone at it during the interview. But there's a link to that below if you want to watch the interview. And I tend to tell people, especially when they're starting out, and if they're still fairly new in terms of they haven't published a lot, I would pretty much stay out of your analytics. I just would. And I think he kind of disagrees with that, but that's fine. That is absolutely fine. The reason I say that is because you don't have enough data to go on, and it can kind of be misleading, and you can get overwhelmed by things. I did hear somebody say recently, and I believe this, and this is what I'm trying to do with this video podcast when I put a video out there, is focus more on the viewer, you, rather than the views. And if I'm doing something that helps you, encourages you, just gets you maybe off your, lights a fire under your creative butt to start creating, I think that's fantastic. It's still up to you. But the thing is, though, let's talk a little bit about data. I know there's going to be some pushback on this, and I'm okay with that. Data can be wrong. Data is only as good as the sources. Have you ever noticed sometimes they'll say, this used to be a thing in TV ads years ago, 4 out of 5 dentists recommend. But the thing is, they didn't just go and talk to 5 dentists, and 4 of them said this. There's a wider a sample. And a lot of times you hear these, we interviewed 500 people and this is what they had to say. And yes, I know in the research and marketing world and data, you have a sample size and things like that. But data can also be wrong. Example, When I worked in television at a Fox station, we were launching a show that, by all intents purposes, by all intents purposes, this was going to be the biggest show Fox had ever launched. And all the initial screenings came back, loving it. Love the star. I can't even remember his name now. It was off the chart on scores. In fact, I think at one point Fox was saying it was their highest ever scored show ever. And I mean, we were behind it as a station, and we aired the first episode. Tons of promotion, including a lot of money spent on outside media like radio and cable and billboards. And the ratings came back, and they were horrible. And in television, there's a thing called overnight. So you would basically, well, there's actually real time. So at some level, networks can see exactly minute by minute how a show is doing. And supposedly it was dropping so rapidly during the show. Well, then you have these overnight ratings. So we'd come in on a Tuesday. How did the show do? Didn't do that well. And then they would adjust the ratings, I think at 7 days, to account for a lot of different types of viewing. And it actually, I don't even know how this happened. It lost viewership. And the second episode did worse. They canceled the show after two episodes. In fact, from what I understand, they were in the middle of production, and they flew in and said, "We're done. We're shutting it down." They stopped the show in the middle of production, and then week 3, what would have been the third episode, they just threw some other rerun of a show on, which is kind of what networks do. How would that happen? Well, it's because people decided they didn't care what the data said. They watched the show and said, "Yeah, I don't like it. I just don't care for it." So all the data in that case told Fox, you got a bona fide hit, put all your money behind it, except the one thing is people didn't care. And 2 weeks later, oh, and by the way, the name of the show is Lone Star. If you want to look it up, Lone Star. Ironically, while the show didn't have a lot of redeeming characters, I'll admit here, is that I did kind of like the pilot, even though I was not the audience that it was going for. So you got to be careful. And this came to mind when I was on a coaching call recently. And the guy I was talking to really knew his stuff, but he was adamant that he didn't want to do a talking head video because people don't like talking head videos. I don't want to do a long video because people don't like long videos. I don't want to appear on camera because I'm old and people don't want to listen to an old guy talk. By the way, he didn't look his age. All of this was based on nothing. And again, I'm not anti-research. I believe there's times to do research. I believe there's times to back up your claims, especially if you're doing things that are more claim-based. You know, I can tell you about my Yeti tumbler that I really like it, even though it leaks a little. So I got a straw in here and it keeps things cold. But if I start spouting off about, some specs that I don't know about, I mean, then it's just my opinion. But my point is, with the gentleman that I was coaching on the coaching call, everything that he didn't want to do, he was basing on, well, people don't like. What was interesting is, and if he's watching this, we had a good time, and I think we had some breakthroughs on there as well. He did send me an email back saying it was money well spent, which is great. But at one point he said, I don't want to do videos over like 9 to 15 minutes. People just don't like long videos, and I don't watch long videos. And I said, so you don't watch anything over 15 minutes? And he said, well, unless it's like a crime thriller mystery or something like that. So you do watch things over. And that's the way it goes. So my point is that he was basing all these things he didn't want to do on something he was just assuming, or somebody had told him that you've got to do retention editing. So going back to that, the idea is I've got to edit out every and aw and pause because, well, that's when people tune away. Because what? I mean, I am so tired, personally, let me know what you think in the comments. I'm so tired of the over-edited, overproduced, graphics flying at me. Full disclosure, I love editing like that. But there's a time and place for everything. I've purposely decided to have these episodes, these videos that I do now, hopefully come across more like we're sitting at a coffee shop, having coffee, just talking. Even though I'm in my home studio office and I don't have any coffee right now. Dadgummit. But that's how I want it to feel, like we're having a conversation. I had somebody say the other day that they actually talk back to the video like they're talking to me. That made me smile. But the idea, though, is we get so trapped into this that we feel like we've got to cut it out and stuff like that. I was watching an interview the other day Colin Samir did with, what's his name? Stephen Bartlett. He's the host, the founder of Diary of a CEO channel or a podcast or whatever you want to call it. And the moment hit me that I actually had to go back and time it. They asked Stephen a question, and it was something like, hey, if you could have a conversation with your 10-year-old self, what would you tell him? Something like that. And he goes, And he was really thinking about it. And it took him, you ready for this? 8 seconds, because I timed it. 8 seconds before he said, I have a feeling that 99% of people would cut that out because, he paused. You're going to lose people. Dead air is bad, which is what I always heard in radio, which probably in radio may be different, that as the song was fading out, you got to be talking. You got to be talking over the intro, the outro of that song and talking over the intro of the other one because we can't have dead air. I actually enjoy now pauses if I think the person is thinking about it. I don't even mind somebody going, hey, hang on, let me grab my phone and look at my notes. Oh, that's another one of those things. Well, you don't want to say, don't look, you don't want to even appear to be looking at notes because why? Well, but somebody said that. I'm telling you, Stephen, the fact that they didn't cut that out also, I think, made it more real. So the thing is, though, when you follow the crowds, you just kind of look like everybody else. And the way to really stand out on YouTube is be you and produce in a way that you enjoy producing. Because if you want to do this for any length of time, I'm a solo content creator. I do all of this myself. And I get I get so many emails about we'd love to help you edit because, we'd love to help you do this. And thank you not very much for sending those. I don't have any plans to outsource what I do for the foreseeable future. I try and keep my thumbnails simple. I try to keep the topics where I hopefully you're going to enjoy them and feel encouraged by them. But there's a point where when you're trying to do what everybody else is doing, it becomes vanilla. Here's another example of this. Back in the 60s, I think it was the 60s, movie came out, Psycho, Alfred Hitchcock. Did you ever see it? There's so many cool stories about Psycho. Anthony Perkins, Psycho, classic. In the 1990s, there was a director named Gus Van Sant who decided to make a frame-by-frame remake of Psycho. Frame by frame. Vince Vaughn, I think, was in it. I don't know who the actress was. I think I read they spent close to $70 million on it. Not just a remake, a frame-by-frame remake. So apparently, if you ran the two movies side by side, it would be identical, except one was in color, one was in black and white. And it was a commercial and critic bomb. I think it made maybe $30 million, which is still a lot of money. It bombed. It did horrible. You know why? Who wants a frame-by-frame remake of something that is, in the movie world, is considered one of those best movies of all time? If I want to watch Casey Neistat, who I enjoy, I don't want to watch a Casey Neistat wannabe. If you're going to try and be like Casey, I'll just watch Casey. Now, I do think there's things we can learn along the way. I do think that, you can always see how people do things, and I'm a big believer in doing that. But if you feel like I've got to do this way because this is how they do it, I think you're missing something. I'll give you a personal example too, is that a lot of ways people will teach the way to do these video podcasts. You have to cut this teaser up front, coming up in this episode, ba 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 ba. And I've done some of that and I've enjoyed it. And then I've decided I'm just going to jump into the interview because I've been blessed with being able to talk with a lot of folks on my channel, and hopefully we'll continue to be talking to people that I find fascinating, and hopefully you will too. I would rather just get into the interview. Now, there's nothing wrong with starting a video like, hey, I had a great conversation with Nick Nimmin, and here's what we're going to be talking to. Let's go. But the idea is like, well, I've got to cut all these teasers in there and get you there because, well, that's just the way you do it. There's always another way to do it. I mean, there just is. That is the part of YouTube that I really love. There's only so many specific things you got to do. And I'll tell you what they are right now. You ready? You don't even have to hire me for a coach for this. The 3 things that you have to do. Your video has to have a title. I mean, literally, it has to have a title. The next time you upload a video, or if this is the first time you upload a video, just don't type anything in the title box. And it's going to go red. And it's going to say something like, a title is required. It has to have a thumbnail. I don't mean a custom thumbnail because YouTube will grab 3 frames from your video and one of those will become a thumbnail unless you create one. I always create one, but it has to have a thumbnail. In other words, if you don't even upload a custom thumbnail, YouTube will give it a thumbnail. And the third thing, you ready for this? If you want anybody to see it and like maybe potentially comment on it, and then maybe you want to see how that does in your YouTube studio, you have to make the video public because unlisted doesn't count and private nobody can see except you. Now, are there other things that you should do? Yes, and I've done videos on those. Not necessarily for growth, just to do or to give your video more potential. Like this video is going to be marked as a podcast because I want to extend the reach of this channel and this message on YouTube. What is it? YouTube Music. And because podcasts are just have been growing big time on YouTube. But outside of those 3 things, there's a lot of things that are debatable. A lot of things. Tags. YouTube tells you that important. I've got a friend that swears by them. Okay, that's fine. And I think it's so easy to get caught up in all these other things, and then I've got to do these things to make it. If you enjoy live streaming, live stream. But don't live stream because a dozen other YouTubers have said that's the only way to grow your channel. I mean, live stream because you want to. If you love being in a home place like this at a desk talking, then do it. But if you'd rather be out walking around with your phone, which there ain't nothing wrong with, then do that. Again, learning from other people, that's great. I'll share another example too. So for years, when I worked in television, especially at a Fox station, we would do American Idol auditions back when it was on Fox. Still seems weird that it's on ABC. I'm not good with that. So we would do American Idol auditions, and what would happen is we would give the winner, we would have judges promote it, our sales team sold it, sponsorships, and we would give someone a guaranteed audition with the producers of American Idol. Which, if you don't know how it works, it's kind of like what do they call it, Disney, the front of the line pass, because thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people could show up, and you might not get an audition. This would guarantee you an audition. As a side note, I was also executive producer of a local show we called Give Me the Mic, And it ran for 3 seasons in conjunction with American Idol, but it was all about local talent. And we did different prizes. We actually worked with a recording studio, so they got a free demo session and coaching and things like that. I forgot whatever else we gave away. But where I'm going with this is, we would do auditions for both shows. We did auditions for Give Me the Mic. We did auditions for American Idol. I don't know how many people would come to the audition, and you had to audition a cappella, which is not a bad way of doing it. Hear the voice. I don't know how many people would come and sing the exact song the exact way somebody did it. Not even their twist on it, not even their take or their interpretation. And I don't know how many people came and sang the national anthem. Do you know how many of those people ever made it ever either got on our show, Give Me the Mic, or we awarded the audition that if they sang especially national anthem? Zero. You know why? It all sounds the same, and most of them were screeching and screaming by the end of it. Kind of hurts your ears. What we seemed to perk up to were people that were unique and different. Not just to be unique and different, but maybe putting their spin on something, or they defied what everybody told them. One of the shows my wife and I have been watching for years, even though it hasn't been as good the last few seasons, is America's Got Talent. If you're not familiar with the show, do me a favor and look up Cody Lee. I think it's Kodie. Cody Lee. I'm getting chill bumps. You can't see that. I don't know if you can. Cody Lee, to this date, was one of my favorite performers. Cody Lee is he's disabled. I don't know what his diagnosis is. They talk about that. He's legally blind. I mean, he's blind. He has a cane, and he severely has special needs. And he came on. He had to be led to a piano by his mom, and his audition blew my mind. I'll spoil the story for you. He won that season. He is phenomenal. He can talk a little. He's got this friend. Oh yeah. Cody, you having fun? Yeah. Just a delight to watch. But when he sits down to that piano, it's just like something I've never seen before. I'll try and find a performance or something and link below this video. Now, the beauty with Cody is I don't think he has the capacity, and I have a special needs son, so I'm not, this is not being mean. I don't know that he has the capacity to copy. But God has made him in a super cool way that's unique. Learn from others, but don't hold back from trying and doing something different the way you want to do it. Somebody has said that, I can't use a whiteboard, but that's what I like doing. Then do it. Do it. Do you know there's a channel? I just found this out the other day. There is a channel that the entire channel is about motor oil. Motor oil has over 400,000 subscribers. Somebody at one point said, hey, I want to talk about motor oil. And I don't know where you live, but right around me, there's probably 5, 6, 7, 8 different hamburger places. Now think about it. They're all hamburgers, but some of them are different. Even the fast foods are different. Burger King is different than McDonald's, different than, I can't think of another one, Hardee's. Completely different. And so there's always room for something else. But what always makes it unique, the way you can stand out on YouTube is be you and try things. And I think it's too easy to try and want to follow the crowd and do what everybody else is doing. And I'm not saying that won't work, but I do believe it'll be hard to find an audience, especially if you're just copying someone else. I mean, it's like Hollywood. Hollywood would rather just keep churning out the same Spider-Man movie with a different actor every few years because you know why? It's comfortable. They know it's going to make a bunch of money even if the movies suck. And that's just the way it is. I really believe in my heart of hearts, which I don't know what that means, in my heart, that the way you can stand out and really have an impact is use your gifts, whatever God gifts you have, and use them and just be the unique person that God has made you to be. And don't worry about it fitting into a mold with everybody else. I don't know. Is this a rant? I really felt fired up. I hope this encourages you, to just create and get it out there. And you can always grow and tweak as you go. But dadgummit, God made you a masterpiece. You just get it out there and don't worry about, does it fit all the right things, and is it like somebody else did it? And yes, I know it's Ecclesiastes, it says there's nothing new under the sun. That's an Old Testament book. But in theory, there's not. But you can still find your way of doing something. Your perspective is so unique and so different. So I just wanted to get that out there, and I really hope this fires you up. Fired me up. Dadgummit. All right, that's all I got. See you, bye.